Evaluating sources. You have a topic and a thesis statement. You searched for books and journal articles, and possibly newspaper and magazine articles, using the library's catalog and Galileo. You may remember that in another tutorial I mentioned how using the internet is particularly problematic. Why? Because anybody can create a website, whether the quality is good or awful. This is why it's important to know how to evaluate information you find. You should also do this with any resource: website, newspaper, journal, magazine, etc. So how does one evaluate information? Well, if you consider 5 specific criteria with the convenient mnemonic device of a crab, you'll have a good idea if a source is acceptable to use in your paper. These criteria are authority, currency, relevance, accuracy, and bias. I'll break those down one by one. First of all, let's look at authority. This is the point at which you ask, who wrote this? What are her qualifications? To put it bluntly, do they know what they're talking about? Is the author a professor or researcher at a college or university? He probably satisfies this criterion. This is one of the reasons scholarly journals are such good resources. They are written by people knowledgeable in the field. Or is this person a general journalist at a newspaper? She may have researched the topic for this article, but is not particularly knowledgeable about the topic. Or is this someone who only has a basic or surface understanding of the topic? Perhaps he states on his LeBron James fan page that James is the best basketball player to ever walk on the court. The second criterion is currency. And no, this isn't about money. Currency in this case has to do with how current the source is, when it was created. Generally, you want the most recent information out there. This is especially important when doing research in the sciences and social sciences, as the research progresses so quickly in these areas. Using an old article isn't necessarily bad. There are such things as landmark studies. These are especially important studies from the past that greatly affected the field of study. With websites, the date or year created is at the bottom of the page. You can also look at last updated if that's there. However, the author may have done only minor tweaking to the article without changing most of the content. In this case, a recent last update date wouldn't necessarily mean the majority of the content was recent, just the adjustments made by the author or editor. The third criterion is relevance. Is the source useful? Is it appropriate for your paper? For example, say you're doing a paper on alcohol abuse in high school students. Your search may lead you to an article in a gossip magazine on an adult actress's latest stint in rehab. Does it have to do with alcohol abuse? Yes. But is it appropriate for your paper? No. Not only is it far from being a scholarly source, the actress is not in high school and you are not discussing alcohol rehab. The fourth criterion is accuracy. Is the information verifiable? It's obvious that factual bits of information should be correct in a source. Great examples of seemingly factual information that are incorrect are urban myths. With opinion pieces or interpretations, you must be more careful. The claims should be backed up by verifiable facts. Finally, you need to consider whether the author or creator has an agenda or bias. Is he or she trying to inform, to persuade, to sell? This relates to bias. Consider the example of a Ku Klux Klan leader writing an article about Martin Luther King. Based on his association with the Ku Klux Klan, it's highly likely that he's trying to portray King in a negative light, and then persuade you to feel the same way. Remember, think of a crab when you come upon a resource: authority, currency, relevance, accuracy, and bias. Before I close, I want to specifically address the internet. Internet sources usually are not a safe bet when it comes to meeting these criteria. Why? Because anyone can claim a website. There's nothing saying they can't put out, well, junk. One way to discern most of the criteria mentioned above when it comes to evaluating websites is to look at the very end of the site's web address at the domain name, .com, .org, or some other one. Just to give you a hint on what those mean, here's a snapshot. Some websites are legitimate sources. For example, if you need statistics on Georgia's state median income, you can go to census.gov. .gov sites are usually okay. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact a library staff member for help.